Hello everybody, this is the Revolutionary Male. My name is Alex. Tonight I'm going to go ahead and read you an article written by Adiz Shirlene Eo, I believe is how you pronounce her name, on medium.com, entitled Men Are Selfish and Will Always Choose Themselves. A reminder not to lose yourself in a relationship. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this article, find out, how much wisdom there is here. See what good old Adiz has to say. Beginning. We have made many strides as a society when it comes to feminism, holding men more accountable and reorientation of how both sexes should relate with one another. However, it seems some things are yet to change. From a candid standpoint, women still bend themselves backward for their partners for the most part. Not only does this pressure come from within us, but it is also encouraged by the wider society. I don't really know where that is coming from, that belief about the wider society. I don't really see any evidence of it myself, but I'm a man, so apparently I am blind to it. I know that it is an issue that exists in a lot of codependent people, but maybe Adiz is not talking about that. She doesn't really go into any more detail here. Anyway, women are told that they are responsible for keeping their men. We are told to endure, to do everything possible, to make compromises, not to be picky, not be too picky, too demanding, and to persevere against all odds. Well, yes, you are responsible for keeping your man, your husband, your spouse, whatever you want to call them, your partner, your boyfriend, just as he is responsible for keeping you. All these relationships are conditional. Or at least they should be. Unconditional love is for children and dogs. That's about it. It's the only times it's appropriate. All other loving relationships should be conditional upon certain expectations being met. That's the nature of any healthy adult relationship. And of course, obviously, being able to make compromises and not be too picky or too demanding is also a good quality, to have in a partner. Society rewards this behavior, the idea that a real woman is one who is a ride or die, even at the expense of their own happiness. I don't know anyone who says that. Again, it's not part of the broader culture as far as I am aware, and she doesn't actually provide any evidence for this either. Maybe it's further down in the article, but I don't see any because she doesn't put any in here. And it's not just society that does this. It also seems like we as women have a propensity to give all of ourselves to ones we love. We love to nurture and serve. And it is easy for us to get completely lost in our partners, sometimes to our own detriment. Yeah, that's called codependency. Okay? That's not healthy. Number 1, men show up for themselves. Women should do that too. I can't count the number of times I've heard guys make statements like this. Quote, I don't want to date a woman who doesn't give me peace of mind. I don't know what's wrong with that. Or, quote, if a woman cheats on me, that's the end of our relationship. And, quote, if the relationship isn't working, it's best to go our separate ways. And they mean what they say because at the slightest, men zone out and move on from what doesn't serve them. Again, broad statements here. Maybe that's true in her experience. If that's the case, she's probably not picking the best men. She seems like she's picking men who are purely interested in themselves and aren't actually in relationships for the sake of the other person. Obviously, to be a healthy adult, you have to have your own interests at heart and prioritize your needs, especially as a man. Because if you prioritize the needs of a woman over yourself, in all likelihood, she's going to lose respect for you and leave you anyway. That's not how you gain women the affection of or the love of women. They want to be able to respect us. They need to respect us in order to love us. And no self-respecting man would put somebody else above him. Women, on the other hand, have the tendency to stay longer in abusive situations, take back a cheating partner, and hold on to a dead relationship. Men are quick to move on. Women hang on for much longer. Again, that's actually false. There's actually a lot of scientific literature and the fact that at the end of relationships, women move on much faster than men do. And that's because 5 months, 6 months before the actual relationship ends, the woman has already moved on in her mind. She's already broken up with this guy in her mind. She's emotionally moved on from the relationship and from the man long before she actually breaks up with him. And she has a more supportive network of people around her to actually give her the help and support that she needs when the relationship ends. Men often don't have that. And so the ends of relationships tend to be a lot harder on men, especially when those relationships are marriage. After marriages end, 70 to 80% of which are initiated, of all divorces are initiated by women, that is the most likely time for a certain subsection of men, I believe men over the age of 45, where they are incredibly likely to kill themselves after divorce because they don't have a support network. They are often destroyed financially by divorce, and it puts them in a very vulnerable position. So this statement that she is making is just false, and that's in the literature. You can look it up. Continuing, of course, I understand that men and women are different in disposition to a certain extent, but parts of our behaviors are influenced by conditioning. As a research paper, finally the first evidence, points out that though many studies have shown that women are more expressive with their emotions than men, each gender still possesses stereotypical behaviors that have been instilled in them from the wider culture since childhood. Okay. So what? Let's continue on and see if she's got a broader point here. If society instills in women that they have to endure more, and men are taught from childhood that they shouldn't have to take nagging, quote unquote, from women, then perhaps it leaves little room to doubt the point I've been making all along. It doesn't really leave any room to doubt the point you're making all along because you haven't really actually done anything to substantiate it. But whatever. We know that women are not more emotional than men. Men and women have the same kinds of emotions, and we are both capable of experiencing them. We may not express them the same way, which may be a consequence of the way that children, boys and girls specifically, are raised according to gender. But again, that's not really relevant here, as far as I can see. Maybe I'm wrong. Women can take a few tips from men in this regard by not enduring what goes against their needs, reasonable expectations, and inner values. If part of our behaviors are conditioned, we can learn to unlearn and recondition our minds to higher things. I'm going to go back up to this point where she writes that women tend to stay longer in abusive relationships and take back cheating partner and hold on to a dead relationship. I actually want to comment on the tendency to stay longer in abusive situations or relationships. That's not true. There's no evidence for that as far as I am aware. If that is inaccurate, then I'm very willing to read the evidence. But it is true that women are far more likely to take back a cheating partner. And that's because sex is different for men and for women. Men value sex a lot more. It means a lot more to us than it does to women in terms of when it's violated, when the sexual pact of fidelity is violated. Men have a much harder time forgiving that because for us, sex is an expression of love, especially when we do it with our partner, our wife, our girlfriend. We see sex as an expression of that love with her. So if a woman has sex with another man and cheats on her husband or her boyfriend, then that is her demonstration that she no longer respects her boyfriend or her husband, and she no longer loves him. Because women are emotional cheaters. Men might cheat for pure physical pleasure. That's why it's often the case that if a man cheats on a woman, the first thing the woman wants to know is, do you love her? Because for her, sex and emotions are tied together that way. For men, sex can just be sex. It doesn't have to be emotional for a lot of us. Which is why when a woman has sex with another man, it's a big frickin' deal. And we take it seriously, and we won't, if we have any self-respect, as a man, you never take back a cheating partner, ever. Because she'll never respect you for doing it. Anyway, let's continue. Number 2, never forget that your partner is human. That seems reasonable. Getting lost in our partners also means that we have a record of putting the cart before the horse. Okay? What do I mean by this? I mean that we romanticize our partners, almost like some Disney fairy tale. Yes, women are very guilty of that. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't love our partners, adore them, and give them our best in our relationships. Rather, I am saying we should learn to humanize, our partners. They aren't Prince Charming and cannot live up to those expectations. For there is a chance that even the best of men can hurt you, because he is human. Absolutely fair. People make mistakes. People do things that are wrong. The people most capable of hurting you are going to be the people that are closest to you. It's inherent to vulnerability and interpersonal relationships at that level. They're that close that they can actually do a lot of damage. No matter how beautiful, smart, kind, and amazing you think you are, it doesn't exempt you from the possibility of getting hurt. No, it does not. Research for the European Journal of Social Psychology showed that women who believed that by virtue of their gender they would always be treated like a queen in their relationships reported higher relationship dissatisfaction. I wonder why. That makes perfect sense, right? Because their expectations are unrealistic. Unfrickin' realistic. As opposed to those women who had a more realistic view of things. The researchers called this benevolent sexism. Oh my God. By all means, trust your partner and believe the best of them until proven wrong, because I cannot imagine a life filled with constant suspicion and worry about what might be. However, we should reserve some of our emotions to ourselves just as a contingency plan. Well, then you're not all in, lady. If you're reserving emotions for just yourself, you're not all in. You're not giving yourself totally to your husband or your boyfriend. And you do this by not being emotionally... What? Let me start this again. However, we should reserve some of our emotions to ourselves just as a contingency plan. And you do this by not being emotionally unavailable, but by reminding yourself every now and then that your partner is human, is prone to make mistakes, and may change his mind. Reserving some emotions to yourself is emotional unavailability. I think what she's probably trying to say is that you can recognize that your partner is fallible. They may make mistakes. They may do things wrong. And that it's okay for you to experience disappointment. I don't know what the hell that has to do with reserving some emotions for ourselves. It's very confusing. Whatever. Number 3, give yourself security. There is a growing trend where having children for a man outside of marriage is being normalized. Call me old-fashioned, but I don't see how this benefits women in the long run. Well, because it doesn't. The reality is that as women, we automatically take the responsibility as the primary caregiver, and a man can decide to deny his responsibilities with little to no consequences. That's a bunch of baloney. Not true at all. Women have reproductive rights. Men do not. If a woman decides that she wants to hold a man financially responsible for a child he'd never agreed to have, she can use the actual force of the state to compel him to do that. That's the reality. There's no such consequence for women. Women are actually encouraged by law to give up children they want. That's why they have those laws in many, many states, I think almost all of them now, where a woman can essentially give birth and drop a child off at a firehouse or police station and not be held legally liable for doing so. I can't remember what those laws are actually called at the moment, but they did that. They passed those laws because women were just leaving their kids out in the open for somebody to find, putting the children in danger. That's where the idea of like a dumpster baby comes from. Again, this is baloney. And it's clear that we live in a culture that actually does not take seriously the perspective of men, and so we never actually hear from the perspective of men about a lot of these things. Men don't have reproductive rights. The moment that your semen leaves your body, you lose all control over it. As men, we cannot compel a woman to keep a baby that she doesn't want, and we cannot compel her to abort a baby that she does not want. But we can be compelled to financially support a child we never agreed to bring into the world. Women have absolute control over who gets born in this country. There may be some states where that ability is more restricted than others, but abortion is a fundamental human right in this country. Men do not have those. Men do not have any reproductive rights whatsoever. If we had reproductive rights, we would actually be allowed by law to decide whether or not we wanted to financially support a child that we never agreed to have. A committed relationship like marriage, where contracts are drawn and families come together, give women more security against being abandoned or left alone to fend for the child. Yes, divorce happens, but still the odds are more in our favor when there is a public declaration of commitment. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely, marriage benefits women. It's a huge benefit to women. This isn't like 100 years ago where men were free to abandon their wives and their children to starvation on the street. Women are allowed to work now in virtually any field, even though women have always worked to one extent or another. But women now have the financial, the social, political, and economic capacity to support themselves and their children. But the laws haven't changed to actually reflect the equality that feminism has achieved for women. And so this idea that women are going to be abandoned or left alone to fend for the child is a bunch of baloney, because there's all kinds of social safety nets and social welfare programs that also help women in these situations that are not available to single fathers who are abandoned by the mother. Again, this is ridiculous and false. Oh God, here's more. Stories abound of women who get pregnant for their partners in hopes that they will marry them once they have a child. Some men even convince their partners to have babies for them while selling them pipe dreams. Not many men have the decency to marry a girl if she gets pregnant for him these days. Yeah, you know why? Because it doesn't favor us. Men don't benefit from marriage at all. It's a huge risk for us, because the woman can decide that she will leave at any time for any reason whatsoever and can take half our stuff. So we need to be smart, she writes. Life already gives women the short end of the stick. No, it doesn't. And so we need to do everything possible to protect ourselves from further harm. Reserve some benefits for when you get married, if that's what you want, and don't give a man every single drop of yourself prematurely. I don't disagree with that. Obviously, if you want certain things, then you need to ask for those certain things and demand that you get them. And make sure you're going into dating with intention to get that level of commitment. You just can't play fast and loose here. You can't hide your intentions or not express them and then expect some man who doesn't know what they are to meet them. That's not fair either. Conclusion. Don't get me wrong, love is a beautiful thing, but we also need to remember that it is messy and can bring pain as well as joy. Nothing in life is easy. Everything has some level of stress to it. Tomorrow isn't promised, and neither are our relationships, jobs, finances, you name it. And so we always have to have some awareness of how transient life can be. Men and women need each other, but since women seem to always be on the losing end of things, due to how our societies are set up, we need to be circumspect and not foolish. Again, that's a bunch of baloney. Get your money up, maintain grace and dignity, speak up when hurt, and show up for yourself. Every now and then we need to bring our heads out from under the clouds to see things as they are. Seeing things as they are will help us to navigate life with its bumps more easily so that we will not be caught by surprise. So how are you going to show up for yourself from this day forward? What unrealistic cloud do you need to get your head out of? I'd love to read your responses and reflections in the comments. Well, that was pretty painful to read, I'll say. Lots of unsubstantiated claims in it. No evidence to back up anything that she really said. She only cited a couple of research studies that really didn't have anything to do with any of the claims that she made. So, endlessly fascinating, I suppose. But that's why I'm here, guys. I am here to to torture myself with this crap, so that you don't have to. Anyway, my name is Alex. This is the Revolutionary Male. If you have any questions, you can go ahead and comment below. Please hit a like on the video if you enjoyed the content, or even hit the dislike button if you hated it and can't stand me. I want to hear from you as well. If you have any stories for me that you want to share, or any articles that you have found, please email me at therevolutionarymale@gmail.com. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching.